Welcome to Dead Pets, the podcast about pet grief that celebrates the lives of the creatures who have changed ours. I'm your host, Elise Wild. We have a brand new website up at www.deadpetspodcast.com. It's looking really good. You can find our episode archives, more information about the podcast, and you can sign up for the Dead Pets newsletter, which launched last week. The newsletter is a place where I will be sharing thoughts and reflections and revelations from all the conversations I get to have with people about their beloved pets, about their lives, and about their deaths. I will also be sharing my own grief journey, mourning the loss of my 19-year-old cat Dodge, who died in March. The newsletter is $5 a month or $40 a year. If you sign up for the Dead Pets newsletter, you will also get 30% off Dead Pets merch, which will be coming later this year. If you haven't already, don't forget to follow Dead Pets on TikTok. There, you can find videos of some of the pets that we have featured. I'm working on other content like ways you can memorialize your pet, information on the stages of grief, and reviews on books about pet grief. Today's episode is the season finale of season 1 of Dead Pets. I love every single episode. I bond with every person I interview, and I fall in love with every pet whose life story has been on the podcast. Ending season 1 with today's episode felt right. Today's guest goes by the pseudonym Phiz Plop, which I love. She lost her 17-year-old dog, Gilligan, the same week I lost Dodge, my almost 20-year-old cat. We talked for hours about Gilligan and Dodge, about what it's like to get a pet when you're barely an adult and don't really know how to take care of yourself, but you learn to by caring for them. By showing up for your pet, you start showing up for yourself and for life. You don't do everything right. It's not perfect because you are far from it. And you learn to assimilate the guilt you have from those moments where you messed up, but your pet keeps loving you anyway because it's the only thing that they know for certain. Phiz talks about how our existence with our pets change as they age. It might get smaller, but it's no less profound. The long walks, the beach days, the car rides turn into quiet moments in the sun in the backyard. She describes long walks she had with Gilligan where it felt like they were the only two beings in the world. We've all had those moments with our pets, and the way she talked about it made those moments I had with Dodge come alive. And I hope it does the same for you. Thank you so much for listening. If you've enjoyed Dead Pets, please help continue to grow this by sharing it with your friends. If you listen but aren't subscribed or following, please hit those buttons. Every single one counts. We will be back on July 16 for season 2. See you then. On today's episode, Phiz Plop joins us to talk about a very good boy named Gilligan.
Gilligan, the kilo man with the kilo plan, the tan man, the land seal, the brown worm, but now he's Gilligan. He was a very unique creature. When I first got him, I had been looking for a dog over a year, and I was living in my grandma's house at the time. She had just died, and I just needed something to fill, like, kind of a gap. Not necessarily like an emotional gap, but it just felt quiet. So I had a mutual friend. He was a friend of a friend, and he said, "Yeah, I pulled off this dog off the street in Richmond, Virginia. He was emaciated when he found him. He was covered in fleas, but he was housebroken. That meant somebody had dumped him on purpose." It was a little heartbreaking. I went over there, and I remember this little dog coming up to me. I mean, he was a big dog on little legs, and he had a big boxy head. It was kind of like a cross between a pit bull and a mastiff in the face, and he had these basset hound features, flayed legs that dip off to the side. He plopped to my feet and immediately got a boner. And I was like, "You gotta be kidding me, man." That was our introduction, and it was so funny. It kind of just, I know that's kind of inappropriate, but it stuck with me. They had another dog there. It was like a black lab or something. He got along really well with the other dog, and they were just chilling, and he had a really calm, kind of laid back demeanor. He was just a very kind dog with really soulful eyes. He had this kind of like natural winged eyeliner. I called him Egyptian King or King Tut once in a while. He had these short, stubby legs, and I actually didn't notice when I got him that he was any sort of mutant. He would be a dog that I would have drawn when I was 5 years old, right? Brown dog, big ears, big body, tiny legs, right? I took him on a test walk first just to see how he would do, and he did great. I said, "Wow, this dog's temperament is amazing. He's just an amazing dog already." And he was free. He came with a bag of dog food. They gave me some Purina Pro or whatever, and sent us on our way. And I took him home, and he did really well adjusting to a new house. He was adjusted maybe less than a week, kind of like he belonged there. He had these little legs that this big body sat on top of. It was like a barrel with legs, and they flipped outward when he sat. So I called him a land seal for most of his life. It looks like he's kind of like a dog that looks like four different breeds got together and they decided to cooperate, right? So total mutt. I walk him to the boardwalk at the beach, and every single time, like, I would have tons of people come up to me and be like, "What kind of dog is that? What kind of dog is that?" It's just the same question over and over and over. I was very new to having a dog, so I was just like, "Yeah, I don't know. He looks like a basset. He looks like this." They would say, "Oh, he looks like a corgi. He looks like a wiener dog." And I was like, "Yeah, I don't know about that because he's way bigger than those." But after a while, people would just keep asking, and I would get this question like dozens and dozens of times. I would just start making up breeds that didn't exist. I would just say, "Yeah, he's a blue pointed snot nose," or whatever. Or if they said something, I would just agree with whatever they said. I was like, "Oh, yeah, yeah, he's totally a corgi, whatever." We did dental testing on him at the vet when I got him, and they said he was about roughly 4 years old. He had some sort of history. I don't know what it was like with his first family that had him, or how cute he would have looked when he was a puppy, and then what his kind of life lives like when he was on the street after he got like, we really do think he got dumped. So I'm not sure what happened there, but really good, easygoing. Like, why would you dump this dog, right? I wanted a dog because I wanted just a companion, like a presence, right? I wanted a presence that would be unconditional in a way. I think I originally wanted that because I've always had these like mental health struggles. A lot of people in my life have come and go because of that. And that's totally understandable, especially looking back on it from where I'm at right now. I've been stable for 4 years now. I think at the time I was just looking for that stability that I didn't have yet. And I don't really recommend that because, in a lot of ways, you need to have some stability to bring an animal into your life, right? I wanted to see if that was something that I could handle, but I I don't think it was fair to him at the end of the day because a lot of that was very chaotic, and dogs, they need routine and stability. At the beginning, when I had the house, I had the yard, and when I got him, I didn't know that it was being sold yet. Otherwise, I might have not done it, but I did my best. I think that's all you can do, really. He was already named Gilligan. That was the name he came with. It was the name that he responded to. It fit him. It was very fitting, actually. I said, "Yeah, Gilligan's Island, he's the little buddy, right?" I kept it because he really did fit it. Our early days were decent. We had this backyard. It was high fencing on two sides and then this low kind of crop fence on the other side. And he would climb it like a mountain goat with his tiny legs and hop over to go see the neighbor's collie and play with the collie. We had these neighbors with a pack of dogs. They had 5 dogs, bigger dogs, and then one little Jack Russell. And the neighbor would let them out. And I know we were the terror of that cul-de-sac, but nobody ever complained. It's entertaining at the beginning. I didn't know any better. They would come over and visit us. I would come out, open the front door, and there were these 5 dogs waiting there. "Can Gilligan come out and play?" And of course he could come out and play, right? So they would run, this big pack of 6 dogs would run around the cul-de-sac, just causing chaos in these neighbors' yards. Me and the owner, we would of the pack would stand there and watch them and make commentary and jokes and stuff, and they would just run wild around this little circle. I know for a fact people were probably pissed looking back, but it actually did bring me joy to watch him do this and get along so well with other animals. That was kind of his thing throughout his life. He lived with a chicken, multiple chickens in one house. One of my roommates had a ton of chickens. I was worried before we got there. I was like, what if his hunting instinct kicks in and he does something? I'll never be able to forgive myself for that. And no, he got pecked once and totally kept his boundaries. So he had a lot of different animal roommates over the years, like other dogs, the chickens, the cats, and he got along with all of them just fine. He had this personal bubble that if you respected, he would also respect it back. And he just kind of kept to himself a lot of the time. The early days were great. We would run around and take walks. And I remember when they first sold the house, or when they were about to sell the house, I leashed him up at like twilight in the evening and I just started walking. I was very upset at the time and I didn't know how to process it. So I was like, I have to go walk. So I took this dog. We started walking. I'm walking like just this one direction, aimless. And we go behind all these sprawling shopping malls and stuff. And I end up at my friend's place like 2 or 3 hours later, and he's exhausted. I'm exhausted. And we take a break, and he's like, how'd you get here? I'm like, I walked, dude. I walked for like 3 hours. And he's like, do you need a ride back? I was like, that would be very appreciated, of course. That was one of our most memorable walks, actually. I had to stop a lot, let him recoup, on some grass, or we would just sit there. And this was before smartphones were like really blew up. So I wasn't like really talking to anybody. I was just like very much in my head and processing stuff. So it's just, I don't know how it would have gone had I not had this companion to go with. We had, a, we had another walk like later on in our history where I took him to this place called Mount Trashmore, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's a landfill that got renovated or converted into a park. It was like right up the street from me. I was having a really rough time and I took him out at like, I want to say 2 in the morning, and I didn't feel scared or weird or anything. Usually it's kind of risky or dodgy to go walking as a woman at night. But I had this big dog with me and I didn't feel scared. I felt like comforted. I got out of the house. I needed to just kind of clear my head again. It was just one of those pinnacle walks. I let him off the leash. He got on the playground like he belonged there, like he was a little kid. And we stayed out there for like 2 hours walking around in circles and playing on the equipment, and eventually went home at like 4 in the morning, and I was fine by then and he was nice and tuckered out. So it worked out for both of us. If I could go back to one of those moments in my life, it would definitely be that one as one of my top five. It was a bad situation, but in that evening was pretty cathartic and great. So I look back on it fondly. I don't think that he understood the full scope of what I was dealing with the majority of the time. He did have a face that would question you, and he had these little dots for eyebrows that kind of twitched and moved around. It seemed like he was trying to assess the situation and figure out what's really going on. I think he lived a very simple kind of mind and existence, and there's something peaceful about that to me, because I don't think a lot of people have that. We're constantly in our heads and constantly like overanalyzing stuff, and dogs are just simple in a way that is almost calming. They're pure, they're innocent, and animals are innocent and they deserve to be protected. And that's the way I look at it anyway. We are their whole life. We determine their life day to day. We're their place, their home, essentially. I really did try to be a good home. I tried to be the best I could for him even when stuff was really hard. When we were still at the house, I was living with two roommates at the time before they sold it, and it was our first Christmas together, and he ripped up my roommate's presents under the tree. And I had another roomie that was kind of temporary stay but always there, and he made this song up. It's like a Danzig parody, kind of trying to like soften the blow of the situation that was really, really bad, like at the time. And he was it was like, well, I've got something to say. I ate your presents today and it don't matter much to me as long as they're shred. That's actually how I found out that he was kind of like a present dog. Like, he knew how to open his own presents and stuff. So every year after that for Christmas, we would give him presents to open. We wouldn't keep anything under a tree or anything until it was time to just hand them off. It was amazing. It was one of my like core memories, right? But at the expense of one of my other roommates, unfortunately. But it was an interesting way to learn a little personality quirk of his. We used to have this stick ball. It's like a long handle, and you put the ball in the end, and it slings it way further when you toss it. For years, that was our thing. We would go to fields, empty fields, parks and stuff, dog park maybe, if it wasn't too chaotic. I would just toss the ball and he would go get it, but he would never bring it really back. He just wanted to go chase something and then tell me where it was. So yeah, it would kind of exercise me, exercise him. One of my better memories is this field that was very close. It was like behind a church and it was always vacant. So it was this big field with a lot of room next to a highway. And some of my core memories were just throwing this ball around, running after it, running after him until he was just tired and would lay down and chill. And we would just have a few minutes where we would just chill from our exercise and then we get back up and keep doing it. And we would do this for hours. It was amazing. And it was kind of my way to keep him fit. His legs were short and he would probably have arthritis issues when he got older. So I would just plow him with hip and joint supplements. I mean, from basically when I got him until when he was gone. So he didn't have really a whole lot of arthritis issues more than his other issues that accumulated over time. It's a lot of weight to keep on top of those legs. And since he had a deficit in the leg department, I wanted to make sure he was all set by the time he got too old. And he never really suffered from those problems. So I guess I did a good job there. There was this time when I was living at the chicken house where for a period of time, I would come home from work and it would just be him and the house chicken. It was this very tiny bantam named Vulture. And they would just be sitting at the top of the stairs together when I came home. And he would just kind of look at me, like tilt his head to the side, like I had just caught him being super good. And the chicken would just be chilling right next to him on the top of the stairs. And he wouldn't necessarily come down and greet me right away. He would just assess everything. And coming home every day almost for months at a time and seeing him up there with the bird, just hanging out, kind of looking down at the rest of the house and observing and just living in this harmony between species. We had a place in Missouri that we lived in briefly. We had a pit, a mud pit for a backyard. And the landlord eventually came in and filled it with a truckload of gravel, right? But he would sit at the very end of the yard. It wasn't fenced in or anything. I would still let him off leash. Again, my bad, but he wouldn't really go anywhere if he was being watched. So he would just sit there. He loved sunning himself, right? Anywhere he lived. So I would just sit out there, watch him, sunning himself, talking to friends on the phone. He would just sniff the air and lay there and observe. Just a really calm presence. He did that too at our current apartment. It's a tiny place, but I have this stoop out back where I could sit with him, and I still had to have him on a leash at this point because neighbors aren't too fond of dogs off leash. They don't trust that, and that's totally fair. It was one of those retractables, and he would just ponder around under this gumball tree. And I got this rake because after a while, I could tell he was struggling at the end, and I didn't want his paws to hurt. And I wanted him to be able to lay down, so I would rake up all the gumballs and put him in a little corner, and he would just chill out there in the grass and sniff the air, and crows and squirrels would come by, and they weren't scared of us. I think they had seen us enough that they were like, oh, these people aren't a threat. He had a really jaunty walk up until I want to say about a year ago. He kind of had a little mini gallop, kind of swayed side to side when you walk him and kind of looked like a worm. That's where he got brown worm from. He had a lot of quirks. like almost too many to name, but those are the things I remember the most. He was kind as long as you didn't go near his face, right? He would let me go near his face and blow him kisses, and I would blow on his lips, his floppy black dog lips that hung kind of low, and blow raspberries on him. And he would tolerate that for me, but if it was anybody else, I would just kind of caution him, hey, don't get near his face, kind of just give him some space. And he was totally fine with it as long as you respected that. But I never saw him bite another animal, another human. He would issue warning shots because he was such a low rider that other dogs try to get up on him and establish dominance. And he would fire this low warning shot, which was never, it sounded worse than it was. He was kind because he was a presence. He kept staying. There were plenty of times where he could have galloped away into the distance with his silly physique, but he always stuck by me regardless of the situation that we were having. I think he just relied on me, and maybe he was used to me, but I'm hoping he loved me. He wasn't the most cuddly guy. He had a very strict bubble. I respected that after a certain amount of time. Whenever he used to get up on the bed with me, he would put his butt towards my feet and face away. I've read about that over time. It was, oh, when a dog kind of shows you their butt and looks away, that's their stance to protect you. So maybe he was just always guarding me in a way. We were in a lot of living situations after the house sold. We went from my mom's to an apartment to a place in Missouri, back to another apartment with a black lab, to a different house with the same black lab, to the chicken house, to a condo, to another apartment where a neighbor's dog got along with him. We called him Gilligan's girlfriend, or called her Gilligan's girlfriend. And her name was Katrin. She was an Aussie shepherd. She used to lick his face and come over and visit and howl. And that was like one of the few times I would ever hear him bark, like in rebuttal. He was a very quiet dog. He didn't bark a whole lot. We ended up in this place. So he moved a lot of times since the house, more times than I would have liked. That's just been the situation. He got pretty used to it after I think the second or third time. He was just whatever about it. He was very laid back, and he was just like, all right, I'm in a new place. As long as I have a bed set up somewhere, that's where I'm going to go and take my little naps. He filled a space I didn't fully understand was empty until he was in it. He filled a huge void for me. I struggled for a very long time trying to have kids. So that's part of my lore, but he was like a child to me in a way. I think a lot of it had to do with structure for me, having a constant source of something that needed me to have that structure for it because it desired that structure too. He became that in a lot of ways. And despite all the chaos and the moving around and everything that came with that, he was still this presence that grounded me. And I genuinely wish I had gotten more answers about my own personal issues and found the help sooner and gotten those. But woulda, coulda, shoulda, it doesn't really help you fix the past. You just have to learn from it and move on and do the best you can and leave it behind. And I know that now, but back then it was just constant chaos. It was the way I handled things. And that's what it boils down to is life's always going to throw you these curveballs. It's about how you handle them, how you react to them. So I wish I had that information sooner so that I could have provided him this better life, like this better, more rich, stable, like existence that I obviously lacked, but that's a whole different story. He definitely did help me. There's a lot of things that I definitely beat myself up about, even to this day. But when you're younger, you have that learning curve, and then folding a pet into the mix, it's both grounding and kind of chaotic. I feel like there's a lot of guilt that comes with that when you mess up, when you're in that learning process that you never really overcome because you're just like, oh, I should have done it this way. And it doesn't help you the animal was always present. The animal was always adaptable. The animal lacked these concepts that we use to complicate things. They don't think about it like we do. And I think when they feel let down, when they feel maybe some kind of way that is not really on par with how we feel things, it's just like, oh, why didn't I get fed at this time? Oh, why aren't we going out today and on this walk? I need to go out right now. It's just a basic core need. And they do still show up regardless. They'll tell you, hey, I need this, dude. Like, you gonna feed me or what? How? Like, smack you in the face with their paw or whatever. Or just look really pathetic on the carpet and just sit in your line of vision, right? But when you take care of them, you have to keep showing up. And you show up for their whole life. That is a commitment. It goes both ways. They commit to never bailing on you when they could. You let them out, and it's like, all right, you're free now. And they're just sitting there, and you're like, all right, I guess you want to stay with me. And you're committing to constantly showing up for them every single day. You have to choose that every day. That's what nobody tells you when you go into taking care of an animal that's going to show up for you every day. It's going to be that presence for you every day. It's going to be that source of stability, whether your life's good or not. And that's important to have, to learn from. It teaches you a lot about yourself. I still have this picture of him that one of my boyfriends took back in the day, just looking so good, so exhausted too. You can tell he had a good beach walk, right? Because I live on the coast, so it's just his tiny flippers flipping out, always looking like he's ready for more, you know? I love that about dogs. At the end of it all, I really found out something important about myself, and this is going to sound weird, but I'm not technically a dog person, and I'm not even a cat person. I found out, like, when I was living in a chicken house, I'm a bird person, right? Which floored me and blindsided me because I didn't really like birds. I thought they were annoying jerks for a very long time. And I got this chicken that I live with that just was so chill. I'd take her for shoulder rides, and, she never pecked me. She never shit on me. She was just a perfect angel with me. I felt chosen. You know what I mean? When you feel chosen, when you feel loved by an animal, it's magical. And I know it sounds terrible to say this. I know it's going to sound so bad, but I didn't feel that with Gilligan. And I felt like we just kind of lived in this symbiotic housing situation over and over, this chaotic cycle. And I did my best by him as I could, at the time that I could. And he was always perfect, and I'm not perfect. And that's the part that sucks, because it's like I have all these inconsistencies and this I have all these imperfections, these qualities of myself that I wish I could change and I wish I could do better. And eventually I got there. I got a lot of it sorted out, especially over the last 4 years, but I tried my best. And like I said earlier, that's all you can do. You can just try your best, hope that you left some sort of lasting impression with the animal, and try to learn about it and move on. And we had a dog voice for Gilligan, and it sucks because we can't use the dog voice no more. And except for when my husband, he breaks it out and makes it sound kind of ghastly. He's like, I love you. So we can't really utilize the dog voice anymore. We had a lot of memes, like interpersonal memes, a lot of interpersonal jokes, like just from years and years with him. My husband's not a dog person at all. He got attacked by a lot of dogs when he was a lot younger, and he has that trauma there, but he still had this boundary with Gilligan. It was like a shared boundary. And then when we said goodbye, he was devastated. We'd been together about 10 years, I think. 10 years at arm's length still didn't do it for him. You know what I mean? He said he was the most perfect, legendary dog as far as dogs go. And he's very not a big fan of dogs because of, trauma. The years before he passed, when he had chronic gut health issues, he was roughly 12 or 13. when he started having these episodes in the house. And we changed his food up a lot. Like, we changed his food up, gradually introducing it the way you're supposed to. Bland chicken, rice, pumpkin diet, like everything you could do. And it just didn't solve the problem. And I was in this film community online at the time that they got to hear me vent about it. They made this meme that still sits with me to this day. He was an emoji in this server for this film community that I'd been in for 3 or 4 years. They loved him. They were like, he's an interesting looking dog. He's got a funny face. He's got, great features. He's comedic looking. We love him, right? He's a big popular boy. And they made this meme. It's like a dog wearing pants two ways. It's like, would he wear the pants this way, where the jeans are on the forelegs and then the jeans are just on the back two legs, right? And they were like, if Gilligan could shit his pants, would he shit them like this or like this? And somebody drew shit coming out of both versions of the pants. And it became this leave message whenever people would leave, is like, Gilligan shit his pants. He was a meme for a bit in these different places online that I frequented. At the very end, I contacted two of the homies that I was closest to when I was in that film community. And I told them, hey, I just wanted to reach out, tell you that, this week I'm putting him to sleep. It's time. And I just want to thank you for all the laughs, the shitting the pants meme that you guys made. It really still brings me joy. And I think I reconnected with one of them and we kind of caught up a bit. But, it's small moments like that that turned a really bad situation, like really stressful situation for me, into comedy. It kind of transformed it into this tee hee ha ha. We're doing it for the chuckles now, right? And I'm fine with that. Because if you're gonna cry, it's either you're gonna cry or you're gonna laugh. And I'd much rather just kind of find the joy, find the humor in it than like the despair and the woe is me aspect. So at least that's where I'm at now. But he had these gut issues for the last 5 years of his life. It was rough, and it was always something. He couldn't have people treats anymore. We had to be very careful with his food, like which food he got. He eventually got stuck on this brand called Yukonuba. It was like a senior formula, and it was very expensive. I still wanted to make sure he was okay. And then at the very end, like the last 2 years, almost, I want to say a year and a half almost, we started putting charcoal in his food. It was just constant, like charcoal, charcoal. And I know that wasn't good for him, but it was like the only way we could keep the problem from becoming a bigger issue inside the house. So, we had these things, my husband and I, we had these daily poop report. I think it was more to cheer me up and how to, again, make light of the situation that was really bad, where he would take these really artistic, like below, you know, legit shots of him pooping and like give me the poop report, just kind of soften the blow of what was inevitable, right? When we picked up the charcoal and figured it out, I don't know how much it helped, but it helped it not happen in the house anymore. And a lot of people don't, I feel like they don't talk about this. You get a caregiver's fatigue. You can get it with animals. You can get it with people, right? It happens. It's very valid. It's very real. And people they don't like to talk about it. They have this sense of pride where it's like, oh, I can handle this. I can handle this. I don't need to ask for help. You do need help. Like, you need help. You need a community behind you. We did get to that point. I noticed myself kind of drifting at the very end, like within the last, like maybe a year or two, maybe even 3 years, where it's just like he slowed down. Taking him for a walk was like taking him for a drag, and he couldn't eat anything that was not the Eukanuba with the charcoal in it. He had several major health scares. The main one was when he lost his hearing, actually. It was like about less than a year ago. He had a seizure or a stroke. He had nystagmus. It's where your eyes move back and forth really quickly. And he peed all over his bed, and he was looking very scared, And then after that, I noticed he couldn't hear anymore. Like, that took his hearing. He lost a lot of mobility after this episode. He was having an issue getting in and up of the stoop step, or we would go and sit in the grass and stuff and chill. It was rough at the end. I did my best. I set my patience settings way the fuck up, right? And I did my best. But nobody ever talks about this stuff. They don't want to talk about the degradation, having to care for somebody or something that's slowly dissolving in front of you. And that's really, I feel like it needs to be talked about more because it's especially hard when you get to this point that I got to. You're in and out of the window at first, right? You see them, they have bad days, you're like, fuck, it's time, you know? We don't do this for humans, of course, but we do it for our pets. Thank God, small mercies. After he had the seizure or whatever it was that made him go deaf and he wasn't able to play anymore, he wasn't able to run anymore, the walks felt like drags. It felt like carrying this, not like husk, but this just body that was still alive, and it wasn't anything like what we used to do or the expanse of how we used to interact. He couldn't get up on the beds, he couldn't get up on the couch, he couldn't put his butt near me and, cuddle my feet. It got to a point where we couldn't even get him in and out of the car anymore. Take him for car rides, take him for park walks, take him for beach walks, whatever. The fact that he got to 17, I want to say it was like midway through 16, but I was just like, wow, he's gotten this old for a big dog. That's kind of miraculous, actually. I did genuinely try my best, and I did think it panned out, but not in the way that I'd hoped. The caregiver fatigue that played into it, and then me backing off emotionally, not necessarily passing all the tasks on to my husband, but like kind of, hey, can you take care of this from now on? Is that okay with you? Yes, that's fine with me. Is that what you need me to do? I was like, yes, that's actually what I need you to do. You're more patient. You have better, poop energy. And then he, made it like an artistic meme thing, and it helped. It helped the crisis of it all. It helped it where it was manageable emotionally for me. I still had love for him. I still cared for him. I still, fed him. I walked him in whenever I could. I did whatever I could, but it was like we weren't playing anymore. We weren't running anymore. So I had 2 quality of life visits with my vet. The first one went okay enough. They were like, yeah, he's old. He's ancient for his size. You've done a really good job. Like, you shouldn't, feel bad, but just keep him comfortable, right? Second one was like, I want to say 3/4 of a year later, right? And they were like, yeah, he's in that kind of in and out of that window. We need to think about it. Ultimately, the choice is yours, right? I was like, how can I make that choice for something that is alive? Like, I don't want to do that. I want it to be natural, right? I talked to my husband and I was like, what do you think? And he's like, he looks miserable. He looks absolutely miserable. It's not a good time for him. It's not a good time for you. There's obvious decline, and it's not something that people like to discuss, but it's very important that we do at some point, because when you're facing that choice, it's like looking down a barrel of a shotgun in a way. Like, you have to execute, and that sucks. I don't want that for anybody, but it comes with the cost of loving something so much and caring about them so much and wanting them to have this stable existence, this sense of well-being that benefits them more than you at that point. I got to this point where I think over the last 2 months, 3 months, I had that last quality of life visit, and he was very straightforward with me. So I'll give you some anti-inflammatories to help with his whatever pain he's having. I can't give you pain meds, obviously. Everybody's weird about it now, so I'm gonna do this for you. I was like, look, I'm grateful for anything at this point. It's literally for the dog, right? And we snuck it into his food, and he would have some good days, some bad days. Mostly the bad outweighed the good at the end there. I eventually had to make that call, and the day that I made that call, I was ugly sobbing for probably an hour or two, where I was just like, I don't want to do this. He still has good days, and I'm trying to justify it in my head. And my husband's, he's not having a good time anymore. You have to let go. And I told him, look, I don't want to be one of those people that waited too long and they regret that. It's the hardest call you can make as a animal lover, whatever you choose, cat, dog, whatever. You're making that choice for somebody else's entire existence. I told him, yeah, he's made it to 17. At least I did that. At least I did that, right? I made the call and they were like very straightforward about it. They were like, here's what to expect. We have a professional that can come to you. And I made it for a week out, so I'd have at least a week left with him. And there were some good days in there. They were folded in with more consistent bad days. And it was really hard because it was like he's not incontinent, he's not eating, he's not drinking, he's not interacting with us, but he seems done. He seems done. And that's the part that hurt because it was just like, fuck, that's the reality. That's the reality. It sucks. And it sucks to come head to head with reality. You have to make the call. We had put a cat down. Our cat Riley started going into the tub and howling, right? And that wasn't like her at all. She stopped eating and she made it to 15. She had a kidney or renal failure, right? And we put her down at the vet. And I said, this is so sterile. This sucks. I don't ever want to do this again. I wanted her ashes. My husband was so in grief and shock that he couldn't make a decision. And I was like, what do you want to do with her remains? Do you want to, get her back? Like we could scatter her somewhere? He's no, we don't really have the money. And I was like, it's not even a financial thing at this point. Like I felt like I made the decision for him, which really sucks because that was his baby. And it was terrible. Like it felt so clinical, like sterile. And I was like, you know, we did a communal cremation for her. And I told him, I don't ever want to do that for Gil. Like, I don't want to do that for Gil. I want to have him in his own space. I want to get the remains back, which I did. And I told him I just want him to be comfortable, which, it went as good as it could have gone. We scheduled it a week in advance, and I wanted more time with him. And I went out and I bought these flowers. I bought roses and I bought white lilies. I was like, these are for him. I got a steak, a big hunk of roast. We had gone to Passover the week before, mashed potatoes with a lot of butter and some short rib. I fixed him his last bowl, right? My husband, he showed up later. His mother-in-law actually came over very early and we had a very perfect weather day. It was like just cool enough to have a flannel on, but just like hot enough that the sun was kind of beaming. It was perfect weather. Her and I just sat out back for hours just talking about our pets that we've had, struggles with that. It was so perfect. I can't be more grateful than I was in that moment because he got to sit in the grass and we were just talking and she was distracting me from anything that would have happened to me like when I was alone. If I had been alone, it would have just been me in my head for hours. But she was there and she was this presence. He was there, he was in the grass, he's sniffing the air, enjoying the sun. And we just sat out there for 3 or 4 hours until the lady got there. Her name was Valerie. She was a professional, like absolute professional. She was amazing. She pulled out this box of munchkins from Dunkin' Donuts. She gave him the first shot. He kind of backed into it and freaked out. And it was like a stressful moment. I still think about it a lot. And she just kept feeding him munchkins until the shot kicked in. He went to sleep. And then we ended up moving him to the bed that I had set up. And I just put him on there. And she said, when do you want to do this? And I said, hey, no need to drag it out. Like, let's just go with it, right? She was injecting that second shot, and that was rough. I had put a towel over his head because his eyes were still open. And nobody tells you that. They don't tell you, hey, your dog's eyes are going to stay open. I was like, hey, babe, can you get me like a towel? And put it over his head a little bit. And I just kind of like applied pressure with both of my hands, like gently on the side of his ears. She gave him the shot. I'm like applying this sort of gentle pressure on both sides of his head. And it felt like in the moment, it felt like a plane crash almost. It felt like shaky and weird. This is it. This is the end. This is everything. And it felt like a plane going down, but it was like shaky and silent instead of loud and chaotic. She checked his heart and everything. She put the stethoscope up there and she's like, yeah, okay. He's at peace now. And I'm like, okay, good. And she steps out. I got to work, like immediately, like shoved everything aside. And I was like, hey, babe, can you get me the flowers that I got for him and a scissor? Started putting flowers all over him and got him like brushed up with the scented hemp orange blossom spray. Got some lavender oil and put it on his ears. And I was like, all right, he's all prepped. He's all good to go. And we put him on the stretcher. And her and I just sat there for a minute. And we carried him out, put him in our SUV. And it was like lined with these little fake flowers or whatever. It was cute. I was like, hey, babe, grab the bag I made, which was like face mask, foot mask, a hair mask, hand mask, eye mask, bath bomb, stuff like that. And a little note in there that said, thank you for everything you're doing. Thank you for everything. It sucks because I know they take this job on and they do it on purpose. She knew how to make a bad situation turn into an okay one. And I was like, yeah, I'm glad I made this for her beforehand. It had been up there on the shelf for a week. This little goodie bag of just saying thank you was my way of saying thank you when it comes to the person that has to do the job of putting your pet away, like filing the whole chapter away. She took him to the crematorium and we ended up getting him back like less than like maybe 4 or 5 days later. When I was actually going out to drop off all of his stuff, I like donated all of his stuff to a local like adoption center. They had like they opened like a half hour early, and she was like, what are you doing here?" I was like, "Oh, I'm just dropping. My dog just passed away." She's like, "Oh, do you want to come in and just donate everything and put it, because they had like a binning system, right?" And she's like, "Yeah, you can come in." And I was like, "Oh, thank God." Like I got it all done in like one visit, one trip. And then of course that same day they called me after I'd gone to the vet and I said, "Yeah, I got this, Credelio Quattro." It was like the heartworm flea medication, whatever. Super expensive. And there was this lady at the counter when I came in to see if they could take it, and they were like, "Yeah, we can't take it." And I was like, "Okay, that's fine. But you're pitching this to her. Let me just give it to her." She was some like bougie lady with a labradoodle or whatever. I was like, "Hey, could you use this? It seems like they're in the weight class. I would love to give this to somebody that can use it." And she's, "Are you sure?" I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely. I don't want my money back. I don't care at this point. I just want it to go to somebody that can use it." So she took it. It was an interesting day. My friend actually went with me. She was there for support. She was like, "Yeah, I'm not working today. I can just come over whenever." And she got there at 9 o'clock and we knocked it out by 12 o'clock. And then the vet called me back and they're like, "Yeah, we have his ashes." I'm like, "Oh shit." So I go over there and I'm like, "Do you feel like taking a ride back to the same vet?" She's like, "Yeah, that's fine." So we go back there and she's, "I'm gonna stay in the car." So I go in and get his ashes, and the same tech that was there for me when the cat passed away and was like kind of commiserating with me, he handed me the dog's bag and he was like, "I'm so sorry for your loss, whatever." And I'm like, "That's fine. He made it to 17. That's pretty fucking good for his size." And he gives me this tiny bag and I'm like, "Oh my God, he's so tiny." I come out and I'm like, hey, what's up? And I come into my friend and she's, is that him? I was like, yeah, look at this. He's in this little bag, right? Here's my dog. I picked up my dog. And she's like, that's crazy. And I'm like, I buried him with a ball, like a Kong ball, and like all these flowers and, a Himalayan dog cheese, like the yak cheese, whatever. Because he loved those at the end. When we got to the end, I used to tuck him in at night in his little, I used to call it Gilligan's office. It was just my shitty little closet here, right? And I would tuck him in with this weighted blanket, this mini weighted blanket that I used to use for him. At the end, it was just me tucking him in his Himalayan dog cheese. So let me give him, one for the afterlife or whatever. I don't necessarily believe in that stuff, but like at the same time, it just kind of gives me comfort. I just kind of like transported him out with this random items that were relevant to him. And part of me wanted to call some people, like text some people, whatever, message them and say, hey, he made it to this age. I know we haven't talked in a while, but like maybe you'd want to come and say goodbye. But then I was talking to one of my friends online. She's like, dude, they had their time with them. You don't need to reconnect. So that's not necessarily up to you to establish that bridge when they're not going to do it themselves. And I was like, okay, I think you're kind of right. I think that's actually pretty common. You remember who the animal liked, and you're like, okay, maybe I should contact this person, even though they do not want to fucking hear from my messy ass. It's hard going from that constant presence to, just this empty space. And I get that. I truly do. I'll be picking out oranges at the store and I'll just start like crying. Or I'll come in after a long, a day of work and I'll just be like, hey, Gilligan, and he's not here. I'll look, in his spot at night and he's just not, not in it. So I think I was grieving, like really, like when he started having his gut issues, like I've been grieving since then because it was always uncertain when it was going to happen. And part of me had that hope, but part of me had that despair, like that preemptive despair that just kind of kicks in where it's like, okay, we don't know exactly what the timeline's going to look like. But I expected him to be gone 4 years earlier than he was. And we've had so many health scares where it was just like, okay, maybe we're in that window. No, he kept existing, and that, persevering, and that's hard. I think that's harder to deal with than knowing a straight answer for a lot of people. I can't imagine it going a certain different kind of way that it did. And I told people when they asked me about it, I was like, this is as good as it could have gone, right? And I can't vouch enough for doing it at home. It's so much less sterile and clinical and push you into the realm of what you don't want for your beloved, however many years you've been together, animal, companion, whatever you want to call it. I think the decision to make it is harder than the actual procedure itself, really. I was messing around with this AI Claude for a little while before it happened, and I had this whole week to think about it and stew in my head about it. And I gave it a very specific prompt. I was like, based off everything from every quality of life test list or whatever, can you formulate me a, JSON file, basically telling me the thing I'm doing is correct, like a test form. It was just for me. It was like to help me make sure I'm doing the right thing. And I took it maybe a dozen times, and I did it like different days too. I did it when I was emotional. I did it when I was more kind of centered. I did it when I was just on a regular day. It always came out to the same kind of test result. I was like, okay. I ended up posting it to my website. Part of me was like, maybe this could be like, I don't know, the good thing that comes out of this devastating situation where somebody's facing down the same barrel. I don't want them to have that uncertainty and that doubt that I faced when I was just in the thick of it.
What did Gilligan teach you about this life?
Patience. stability, presence, how to be a better version of myself. He taught me a lot. He taught me that it doesn't really necessarily boil down to my situation. It really boils down to me and how I handle things. That's irreplaceable. That's not something that happens to a lot of people, I feel. We didn't always have this perfect relationship, this ideal picture perfect relationship. We didn't have this super stable like environment constantly like always there, always prevalent. Like it was one place after another. And we had multiple roommates, multiple people, multiple different situations, multiple animals that were involved as well. It's just like a tapestry, really. Life is a tapestry of learning, is a tapestry of understanding these lessons that it's trying to teach you, and with a constant presence in place that depends on you, that relies on you, that tells you, hey, every day, I need you. I need you. You're all I have. That's significant, in my opinion. That's something that you can't find anywhere else. That's not something that's not a human lesson. That's an animal and human bond. I think that's kind of what I took away from the whole situation.
When you think about Gilligan now, what do you think of?
I think of the memes. I think of the good times. I think of the intense walks we had when I couldn't have done it alone without him. I think of, balling him in the fields, him never bringing it back, and me running after it. I think of him Sandy at the beach. I think of blowing raspberries into his little floppy lips. I think of his weird land seal paws. I think of him snoring in my closet, and it doesn't matter how big it is. It just matters that it's his office. I would always call it Gilligan's office. I would call him Dwight Schrute occasionally. I try to remember the good stuff because I know the bad stuff is still going to be there at the end of the day. I know it's going to kind of haunt me in a way, as it does with everybody, like the mistakes we make, the journey we have with these animals. And I try to just reflect on the better times, on what I tried to do for that being, what I tried to do to make their life more comfortable, what I tried to do to make it, you know, more fulfilling, more complete. I spoiled the shit out of them. I really did, especially at the end. I mean, we had our last Christmas together. I let him open his presents. I took videos. I sent them to my friends. I said, "Hey, here he is. Here's the old man." And I was very mindful of what I was giving him too. I thought to myself, yeah, he can't really play anymore. He can't do this anymore, whatever. And just kind of give him these big plush stuffies. Hey, here's a pillow for you. Here's a dog cheese for you. Here's the dental treats, the greenies for you. But the fact is, you get to open them and it's a surprise. And I tried. I really did try. That's all you can do. Is just try your best. Learn from everything that happened before.
Whatever you believe or don't believe, if there is another side where we reunite with our pets and you get to see Gilligan again, what is the first thing that you will say to him?
I'm going to be real honest with you and tell you this. I would say sorry for not having a stable enough environment long term. I would ask for his forgiveness, but I would also tell him, thank you so much for sticking around with me. Thank you. Like you did the thing that I never thought anyone else would do. No human ever did, except for like maybe my husband, right? I would just want him to be in peace and comfort and not deal with these physical issues. I would tell him, thank you for everything. You did so much for me. You helped me grow. You helped me change for the better. And I don't know a single person that could really fulfill that role for me. I would tell him, I wish it was more stable. I wish it was, better. I wish you had a yard. I wish you didn't die in this like tiny place with like no autonomy going in and out as you needed to relieve yourself or whatever. And I would tell him, I'm so sorry. Like, I wish it wasn't this crappy fucking place that I'm about to move out of, actually. I would tell him, I had your 3 beds around. I tried my best with you, gave you the yak cheese, gave you the big yellow duck plushie that squeaks for your last Christmas. I tried everything. I tried everything. I tried my absolute best on the very end of your life, and I hope I did okay by you.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe and share with your friends. If you have a dead pet that you'd like to share, please send an email to deadpetsofficial@gmail.com. Dead Pets is a Wild Media Industries production. It is written and hosted by me, Elise Wild. Until one has loved an animal, a part of one's soul remains unawakened. Anatole France.